Hello everybody and welcome to Usually Fixing and Tinkering in yet another episode, and this time not long after the Focus passed its MOT here in the centre of Birmingham, I've had to pay £8 for the privilege of driving in the clean air zone this morning to bring Ruby out to the MOT. Forgive the fact that I haven't really done any pre-filming of driving to the MOT centre, because after last time's aborted MOT attempt to get to the MOT test centre, I really couldn't be bothered, and secondly I was really nervous this morning, and that wouldn't have made for very good filming. I just wanted to get here, and apart from stalling very early on at a junction, which was me not pulling the choke out, I'm really pleased to say that Ruby made it to the test centre, as you can see in the thumbnail, and pass. Thank God this car has passed. Oh Jesus, she was running for about 40 minutes idling there. This is the first MOT that I've sat in on and watched the car, because even my P6 I trusted back in the day. I don't trust this car yet, and if I'd have walked away, I'd have come back to probably an unsurprising result of fail, because it wouldn't idle. But I'm pleased to say, along with some dirty mechanics finger marks, she's done it. She's passed the MOT with flying colours, absolutely no problems. In fact, I found it really fascinating watching the whole process happen, especially the braking test, where you've got the two clocks up on the wall. The tester will sit there with the remote and will switch between the clocks for either the left-hand side or the right-hand side rolling breakers. And from my observation, unfortunately hasn't given me the statistics for the braking test. They don't do it in that garage. Their equipment is quite old-fashioned. Well, as I say, MOT testing equipment costs an absolute fortune. Most garages can't afford it. So it's quite basic equipment, but from what my eyesight could tell me from a distance, is that both the back brakes and the front brakes were very, very equal. I think the only difference was on the passenger front to the driver's front. The passenger front stopped a little bit more easily than that side. It locked up a little bit more easily. So this side isn't quite as efficient, but it's had new hoses, new calipers. There's not really anything I can do, and the pads have been changed. There's nothing I can really do to make one side better, more equal than the other. There's always an imbalance. The back brakes, well, as I said, he was going to have some difficulty pulling that handbrake lever up, and I'll tell you, he did the same with the Focus and the Rover, pulling the handbrake up to the ceiling. He couldn't get it to go more than two clicks, and it locked on really nicely. Not too early, not too late. So I'm really pleased about that, but no other issues whatsoever. I had to correct a little blow in the exhaust this morning. There was a little bit of water out the joining between the back box and the middle box. That was my fault, didn't put enough paste on, and now it's clamped, and it's all good, and it's flown. She's great. I cannot wait to get paint for this thing. Unfortunately, at the time of this video, I was meant to actually go straight from here to the paint shop, only to discover the paint shop closes at 12, and it's a Saturday currently today, and it's about 1 o'clock at the very present time. So yeah, so I've got to wait another week to get my paint, but I don't care. This is what matters. And I can tell you now, there was the emissions results for a pre-cat car. So this refers to cars between 1975 and 1992 with a cat fitted. The limit is 3.5% CO2. Now, by the book, you are supposed to tune these cars carburetor wise to 1.5%, but the book might kind of go each way a little bit, and the results was astonishingly close. 1.43% CO2. This car not only feels like it's tuned to perfection, the emissions test results suggest it is exactly where it needs to be, maybe fractionally richer, which I might do a little bit later, and I certainly can do that because the limit is 3.5. That is ridiculous, considering that cars with a catalytic converter are limited to 0.20% that's ridiculous. Or 0.200 I should say. So this car is 5 times dirtier than any cat car. It's ridiculous. Emissions have gone a long way. Cars have got a lot more cleaner down the years. There was a smoke level test and it passed, and I'm pleased to say the smoke has reduced drastically. There was a lot less blue smoke after the journey. I've just done this bumper in some just baby oil and it's come up really nicely, and there's no deterioration underneath all this nice primer. So it's all ripe to be stripped apart again, ready for some paint, as per the arches as well. They're ready to be sprayed up really nicely. I've just got to do a little bit of cleaning to remove some dirty marks and all that. The garage were really good. They actually saw that the cleanliness of the seats, everybody stopped as soon as this drove in. The whole garage kind of stopped work and had a little few minutes looking around this, because and a couple of them couldn't believe it had electric windows. Not one of them used to actually work in a Ford dealer, and he's never encountered one with electric windows. So I said, well, it must be rare to have a gear then, because these were fitted as standard to the gears. So really interesting there. So most of these cars denominally were popular pluses, L's, LX's, but never gears. Very rare, which is quite interesting to hear from other people's lips. But anyway, a bit of fogginess on that headlight. The headlights were on a little bit, but there's always been a bit of fogginess there, but it clears up after a while, bit of condensation. Quickly before I go, the other reading that they have to pass is the hydrocarbons, which has a maximum limit of 1200. That's quite a lot, considering that cars with catalytic converters are limited to about 200 ppms. My Focus and the Rover probably have less than 50 ppms, which is very healthy. Hydrocarbons are unburnt fuel, and on older cars the ignition systems are very antiquated. The CVH in the Mark III Fiestas was the most basic ignition system of it all, with a distributor rotor arm, coil on, a mounted coil, instead of on the HCS models where they got a proper coil pack system with an ECU controlling that. This is the most basic form of a Mark III Fiesta in terms of the ignition system, and for that reason you can expect more hydrocarbons, and the reading was 416. So that is fantastic. The only thing that hasn't been changed is the HT leads. They are the original HT leads. They are really nice, aren't they? And I really want to keep them on the car. I have identified that one of them is reading a higher resistance than the others. I think it's number 1, actually, the longest. So they may be replaced if I want to use the car a bit more, but as a car that's seldomly used, I think those genuine HT leads, they will look nice at car shows, and they still work. So there's a little bit of room for improvement there. There always is with these systems, but the limit is 1200. So this car would have doubly failed at a cat test. I've heard of horror stories of where MOT testers aren't paying. I think it's very difficult these days because they type the VIN and the reg numbers in, and they'll get the computer will tell them what test to perform on the car. But some MOT testers apparently have tested early Mark III Fiestas with carburetors, pre-cat cars, on a cat emissions test, and no wonder they've failed. The test has not done it right, and that has happened a few times. But anyway, I'm going to leave you be. I'm really delighted. No advisories, as you can imagine, no play whatsoever. I'm just going to open the bonnet just to check under here, but there's nothing to say. I've got a feeling that the oil might be leaking from the dizzy. Oh no, there's no leakages there, and fantastic. It's the first car that has gone to that MOT test centre and hasn't overflowed out the tank. I properly screwed that on this morning, but there's no oil leaks. It's really good. Well, that's the end of that then, really. There really isn't nothing more to see. I've got to clean that off. That's really annoying. But anyway, I will leave you be, guys, with the sound of this car. I didn't bring my camera equipment, as you can Yeah, almost. Thank you. Almost. Just give it a kick. Little bit of a kick back there. Sometimes it does that. Superb. Right, I'm going to get home before I start jinxing this car again. From me and Ruby, it's onwards and upwards. I can get the ball rolling in terms of everything, and I can hopefully get this car out to some local shows and just keep driving it. You know, classic cars are seldomly used, but they've got to be used more, because when they stand, you have so many problems. And I'm so pleased that it looks like the fuel tank, the filter, and all the bits that I've done to the carburettor has made one heck of an efficient car. And anybody can do what I've done, because these cars are just bread and butter. They are fish and chips. They're so easy to work with and live with. Anyway, you take care, guys. I shall see you in another episode. Classic cars, love them.